Hey, welcome back into the ShopFix channel, a community joined together for the love of woodworking. One of the biggest considerations that you're going to need to make when planning out your cabinet install is whether or not you're going to have a face frame. And so I made faceless cabinets, and I'll tell you what, they are so much easier. I think adding the frames not only adds more work, but then it makes installing slides much harder. So overall, I would highly recommend just doing faceless, much easier to install hardware, and I think you get a really cool look. When it comes to assembling all the plywood panels together to create the cabinetry, there's three main things that are used: glue, nails, and screws. And I've seen screws being used from the sides of the panels with countersunk holes, and I've also seen screws used with pocket hole joinery, such as the Craig Jig K4 right here. And so those are the main ways you'll be assembling the cabinetry. I found it more comfortable to actually clamp all these boards up, make sure they're all 90-degree angles, and then just simply drive in screws through the pocket holes that I made. All right, let's get into this. And first, we need to settle the debate: coarse thread screws versus fine thread. Now you might think fine thread because, well, birch is a hardwood plywood, right? But the truth is, hardwood plywood is still layered softwood and glue, so coarse screws are the way to go. I'd love to say that I could hold every panel square by hand, but honestly, these 90-degree clamping jigs save my sanity. Clamp it, shoot your screws, and it's like having a workshop assistant that doesn't require snacks. With the sides clamped and square, I moved on to adding the stretchers, the horizontal pieces that'll tie everything together. These are critical for strength and alignment. Just make sure your pocket holes are clean and your placement is consistent. Once the cabinet structure was locked in, I added on 3 2-inch slats across the front, which divides the cabinet perfectly into 4 6-inch sections for the drawers. Now, instead of building a whole new cabinet for the door side, which you could do, I just simply attached it directly to the first one and doubled it up to a full 4 feet wide. Same stretcher layout, just rinse and repeat. That move saved time, plywood, made the whole thing stronger, and you guessed it, a whole lot heavier. So fair warning if you're without a helper and not swole. One crucial tip for driving in these screws is to make sure not to use an impact driver, which could drive the screws too far, causing them to come out the side of your cabinet. And also, you'll want to make sure to orientate the pocket holes on the outside faces, so they're invisible when it's all assembled. You'll notice that on the middle panel, I spaced the pocket holes out in such a way that they wouldn't hit each other, which is an important design consideration to keep in mind. After adding on the extra stretcher in the middle for shelf support, I finished the cabinet box by mounting on the shelf. You can always add shelf pin holes instead, but I had no need for adjustable shelving for these base cabinets. With all the stretchers and the shelf attached, we've got ourselves a rock-solid cabinet base, ready to handle drawers, doors, and whatever abuse shop life throws at it. Building cabinets well is one thing. Building cabinets well on a super unlevel surface is a whole nother thing. Literally nothing was level. The wall wasn't level, the floor wasn't level, they weren't at a 90-degree angle, so literally everything had to be adjusted. Now, to do this, I put leveling feet in the front and a cleat in the back that was leveled, and I thought that was a really cool design. I started by installing 3 heavy-duty leveling feet on the bottom of the cabinet. These aren't your average plastic screw and nubs. These bad boys are rated at 330 pounds per leg and adjust from 3 inches to 6 inches high, which means I can get things dead level even if my floor looks like a topographic map. Installing these onto the cleat and then using the levelers was actually way easier than I expected it to be. Then I was able to clamp the 2 adjoining cabinets together and lock them into place with several countersunk screws. This basically created one giant 8-foot cabinet that could be leveled as one solid unit rather than having 4 individual cabinets all bunched up together. Now it's time to begin mounting the whole structure to the wall. Enter Stud Finder. And if you didn't know, they actually make a stud finder that finds the center of the stud and not just the edges, which can be super helpful. I then drilled shallow countersunk pilot holes for the screws, and to my surprise, the garage wall was so uneven that there was about a 1/4 inch gap at the top that needed to be shimmed first to keep the screw from pulling the cabinets backward. When it comes to crafting the perfect doors, there's two jigs that you're really going to need. One is the concealed hinge jig. Craig makes a great one. Basically, you just need something that you can create consistent holes with. And it also has pilot holes for where the screws are placed. So that's first. The next jig that I think is essential is the cabinet hardware jig. And this allows you to drill accurate holes for the placement of all your hardware, the handles, the knobs, all that kind of stuff. One thing you'll notice on these cabinet doors right away is the fact that I have 3 hinges. And I used 2 initially, one at the top and one at the bottom. However, this is a fairly large cabinet door, so I had to just go with 3 hinges just to be sure that it stayed level and exactly where it was supposed to be. As hard as it was to level this cabinet to the uneven floor, it was arguably even harder to create a toe kick to match the space. I didn't want to waste any plywood guessing the angle, so I unfolded a cardboard box into a long strip and taped it right to the bottom of the cabinet. Then using a razor blade, I carefully trimmed the angle. This gave me a foolproof template that matched the floor's angle exactly. No guesswork, no wasted wood. After transferring that cardboard template, I cut it out using my trusty track saw. Now, the moment of truth. Did my cardboard trick actually work? To my surprise, it actually worked incredibly well. This right side was mounted to the extra wood that I added on top of the leg levelers. The left side was a bit more straightforward, but still needed a precision fit. For this side, I used the same cardboard template method to capture the floor's slight slope. Using the track saw guide as a reference for the razor blade made this a breeze. I then carefully taped the template onto the plywood and traced the outline. Using the track saw again, I cut the plywood to match the floor perfectly. This side was nice and close to level, so I could use the manufacturer's toe kick clips that came with the leg leveler set. I screwed the clips into the plywood toe kick panel, making sure everything lined up for a solid snap-in fit. Once the clips were secured, the toe kick simply snapped right onto the leg levelers, holding it firmly in place without any gaps or wobble. With both sides fitted snugly, I finished by cutting and installing trim around the bases for a clean, polished look. And just like that, the whole build comes together, looking sharp and feeling solid. Custom fit, no wasted wood, and a perfect finish to an epic project.